What's up, everybody? It's Soul, and did you know it's been about a year since I made this video covering the upcoming CK3 release of Anbennar? Well, I realized that I haven't really made any videos for it since then, and the mod has been getting updated. It is still not in full release yet. However, I did want to make a couple videos for it this, I guess, like a year after the fact, and talk about some starts that I recommend, and then also give you a gameplay video here in a couple days as well, just to remind you that this mod exists and that it is very much still worth your time. There's a lot of cool things to see and to explore, and I hope that you enjoy that. So starting off here, I'm actually going to come up with two different characters. So the first of these is High Lord Garrick of Ebonmark. He's from the Ebonfrost dynasty, as is his brother, King Urich of Ebonmark, or of Yarvamar, or Yarvama. So basically, these two are the sons. Well, I mean, there's multiple different children, but I think these are the last two sons, if I'm not mistaken, of the last Castanorian king, Castan the Enthralled, who was, of course, killed by the Sorcerer King in the big war that basically ended right before this game's start date. So if you need a refresher on the lore, it's kind of pretty much it. There was a big war. The Sorcerer King was defeated by a coalition of a bunch of different peoples throughout the world, and now the world's kind of just trying to rebuild itself. These two are the last of the Black Castanor Emperor's children, or I guess male heirs. And so naturally with that, you could try to restore Castanor, which, I mean, you can see they both have claims on it. It's a pretty big area to cover. It's 170 counties. It is an interesting, like, long playthrough if you wanted to do something like right out the gate that is, you know, it's going to take you a little bit of time. It's going to take you a bit of strategy. I would recommend probably doing it with Urich, although canonically he actually ends up starting his own realm because his brother, Garrick, ends up dying in a war to this guy, Harold, trying to reclaim some of this land, if I'm not mistaken. So that's just something to keep in mind. Don't believe that they change the stats. I think that this is kind of what they stay as, but I could be mistaken. I've not played every start on here. I've actually requested the devs' help, which I'm going to flash on the screen now. Two specific developers help me make this list. So this is sort of like starts I recommend as well as starts that the developers recommend. But, you know, for brevity, I'm just going to say me. I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you so much. But these are two of them to start off with. I think that you could have a lot of fun. This guy's more known for raiding, and I cannot remember where his territory is, but it might just be this, or it might just be a little further up. But yeah, his brother ends up dying. So you could either go the route where you're just going to start your own kingdom and make your own empire and your own name for yourself, or you could try and play as this character and then restore Castanor, or Black Castanor rather, and that could be something fun too. The next one is actually a character that I have played as on my own, not here on the channel. It's something that I could consider here in a couple days. I haven't quite figured out who I'm going to play as yet, but this is Queen Claramond of the Blade Marches, and the Blade Marches are interesting because they have one of the only decisions actually in the game for like different characters. So they have the Restore the Blade Stewards, which is really cool. They also, or at least with this character, something that's interesting is that they were the one who they slew Emperor Nikmer, the Sorcerer King. So they are the reason that the Sorcerer King died. I mean, they're among the many other people, but they're the ones who specifically slew them with their blade, which is Calendal the Gleaming Blade. Calendal first saw its use as the Gleaming Blade of Elikast Dragonsbane, who used it to slay Alos the Copper during the Dragon Wake. Elikast was quickly heralded as the savior of Ascan, and many flocked to his banners, and he created his own kingdom in southern Castanor. The blade was wielded by the kings of the Blade Marches for much of its known existence until it was lost for a time by Elikast the Sixth, who attempted the Trials of Castan and failed, losing the blade atop the Trial Mount in 660. And if you remember the Trials of Castan, or like, you know, this mountain right here, you basically would have to do a series of trials to try to become the Emperor of Castanor. I'm not sure if they're going to implement that, like if you happen to rebuild Castanor, if they're going to implement that back in the mod. I think that they were disbanded after the War of the Sorcerer King, so I think that's irrelevant anyway. But it was lost for a time. It was found, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it was by Claramond, and then she used it to defeat him. And as you can see, she has 40 prowess, and only 11 of that is from her blade, so she's pretty formidable. You could do a lot of fun stuff with her. You could probably try to establish yourself down here. And there's another interesting character over here, and I don't know the lore of this guy, but I always love a bastard founder of a dynasty. I'm a big fan of that. This is his mother, but I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm very tempted to just come down here and like make a kingdom with this character, because there's a couple kingdoms over here. If you look, there's like Sarwick, and I'm going to assume that's the kingdom that this dude ends up founding, because again, he's got bastard founder. I don't know much of the lore. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't really find anything. So if somebody knows, let me know. But this one piqued my interest. This is not technically a start I recommend, but I mean, look at him, he's on there. This next character is really interesting. So we're coming to Laurent, and this is King Rain the Fourth, but we're not talking about him. We're actually talking about his mother, High Queen Mother Uriel the Red Rose, which is obviously this is to do of Laurent. This is in beta, so you know not everything is done. This is a really interesting character. Supposedly she was a lover of the Emperor Jahir, and just in general, just a really cool character. She is responsible. She was largely responsible for forming the Irelian Empire, I think is how you would say it, and for her rivalry with Jexus, which is the daughter of Jahir. She's not born yet, or I don't think she exists yet in the game or in the mod. I think she comes later, or she was born later. I'm not sure. But basically, she ended up having a rivalry with this girl and ended up getting her assassinated, and then she eventually was herself assassinated. But she's a pretty sweet character. I mean, look at her stats, but it's kind of insane. She is a insane diplomat, and what's interesting is that you're playing as basically the Queen Regent to your child, you know, King Rain the Fourth of Laurent, who is a half-elf, one of the first half-elves, kind of like, you know, Marion, the firstborn of Demeria, who is obviously the son of Moon's Moonsinger, and what is her name, Queen Ausi. But I mean, the most obvious goal for this would be to just try to secure Laurent and keep it together. You could potentially try to avenge your husband who was slain in a duel, this guy who was slain in a duel against this dude, King Krieg of Carnetter, or you could do the opposite and have this guy try to basically take these guys over. It's really up to you. I think it's more compelling to try to like foster your child and sort of like usher him into a prosperous future and sort of work in the background if that's something that you're interested in. This is another bastard founder because they found this empire title basically down here, so this is something cool that you can try out. Next up we have Drosten, the River Reaver of Can Esmar. Now this guy's pretty interesting because during the War of the Sorcerer King, he was actually a general for the Sorcerer King, but he ended up switching sides to the League of Free Realms, and he actually became a friend with Moon's Moonsinger. He led some pretty major assaults like the liberation of Ismaria and was at the Battle of Dame's Teeth. But after the War of the Sorcerer King, the people of Ismaria right here, they wanted their lands returned, and he basically said, kick rocks. He was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so you have this character who switched sides, was very noble, very heroic, and then basically just sort of reverted back to what he was before, and he ended up being like a petty warlord of this region until he died. And I think that's really cool. I like the idea of this might makes right sort of character, especially in Crusader Kings 3 or in like a fantasy setting, not necessarily in real life because it sucks. As far as like a starting goal goes, I would say getting rid of Ismaria would be a big one, and probably just taking up the rest of the kingdom of Ismaria and just making it for yourself. That way you're able to, you know, like have your heirs properly take over a kingdom rather than just being a petty king, because he's not a king, he's just a duke, he's a petty king. So this one's kind of interesting. I like his lore a lot, so this might be the one that I do just because I think it's cool. There's also one up here that I might do, but something to keep in mind. You can also just go like play in Demeria if you want, or play like the Necropolis. Some of these you can't, like this is theocratic, so you can't actually play this, but there's some interesting like tiny realms that you can always click around into. I will say before we move on, I would recommend playing more over here. It's a little more developed than over here, but I will warn you that these guys, whose name now escapes me, the kobolds, they're kind of messed up for some reason. Their faces kind of got all janked up. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what happened to them, but just keep that in mind if you want to play as them. Next up, we're going to come over to Harpy Land. This is an interesting one because this was recommended to me, and basically the goal of this one is to just survive. And this is one of two that's kind of like that, because you have Emperor Jahir to the south of you, and this dude hates your guts. He does not like you. I mean, you're a harpy. I know you don't look like a harpy yet because they don't have the models yet, but this is a harpy character, can be inherited. They're just a harpy. There's no text for it really. But you have some unique men-at-arms. You have these vertical pikes, and you have shriekers. There's no images, but these are like harpies, like they're actual harpy characters. You are, for all intents and purposes, a harpy. Just imagine it in your brain. But basically, this character is just trying to survive against what it would be their inevitable defeat by this character, who is another one that I'm recommending on this list. So you can kind of play as either one. You can either try to like hold on to the Harpy Land and prevent it from being destroyed, or you can do the opposite, which might be even more fun, and playing as the canonical person who kind of ended up leading to this collapse. There are still harpies obviously in the world, and this didn't all go away, but the polity of Harpy Land and like the unified kingdom, or I guess this is an empire, it's like high kingdom, so it's an empire title, of the harpies kind of went away because of these people. So something interesting to keep in mind. Princess Amarian, who is another person on this list, they are the leader of the elves who ended Harpy Land, which I mentioned, and they were a member of the migrant fleet that came with Jahir. She fought in the Bulwar conquest to secure the empire, which is why she is now a governess of this region of, I think it's Imalusis, I'm not sure how you say it. So her constant raids on this territory are basically what led to its kind of collapse, and then like the fractured kingdoms of the harpies that you'll see like later on in the world. Really cool character. She is an elf, full-blooded elf, so she's not a half-elf like the other people. She's also a shield maiden, has an insane martial. This would be quite the task, though, because they are really strong. at least in comparison to you. Like, not particularly strong in comparison to like maybe Jahir, who is, this guy's a G, and he's also on my list, but I'm going to talk about him last because I love this character. Even though he's like a super obvious one to pick, I think he's so sick. But yeah, so you got either the Harpy Land or you could do this one. And when I, up here too, you could also try to play as this guy. He has a claim on this, so you could work on creating that and also canonically, or beat the canonic rival, I guess, that you have, this dude in Anbennar. You could just kill him and then also make that kingdom too. That's another start that you could do. And as for like a difficult start, I did want one, and I'm glad that they recommended it. This one is apparently really rough. This is the kingdom of Adshaw, and what you start off with is every single one of your vassals is trying to fight for independence. But if you happen to win, I think there's like a unique decision that you get, which is not available at the start, unfortunately, because I would like to see it. There's also the Bring the Mormon to Heal, so this is something that you can do, I think, in general. But you have to, if you could survive this war for independence, you only have 1,400 troops. They have 3,400. And even the devs were like, I don't know if this is even possible. So if you guys are like a mad lad out there and you want to give it a shot, just let me know. You know, tell me how it went for you. But this is something that could be pretty cool, pretty exciting. I just saw this and I wanted to click it. There are dwarves and stuff. So just if you like to play a dwarf, I just want to point this out. There are dwarves that you can play as in this mod. There's a bunch of different races. There will be even more. Obviously, the kobolds are kind of messed up. There's a few things like that which I think are cool. I'm not sure as much of what you would do if that was something you were interested in, but I just want you to let it be known that you can. And lastly, I'm going to jump here to Jahir, and I have to. When I was doing the video for the This is Anbennar, I loved Jahir's lore. I think this dude is absolutely insane. And this guy is Jahir the Sun King. He doesn't really need an introduction if you know about this character. Basically, he was part of the migrant fleet that the elves came in on it, and instead of coming here with Muna's Moonsinger and a couple of the other ones, he ended up going this way, and he ended up conquering Bulwar and like a bunch of this territory. Like, he basically just, I think the Phoenix Empire ends up stretching like all the way to this sea over here by the end of it. So that's like an obvious initial goal, would be to try to create the actual Phoenix Empire that goes all the way to the ocean, which could be really cool. It was assassinated eventually, but he was canonized once he was killed and made into like a Surreal Reborn. You can actually see it here. I'll even read this for you. One of the many local sects of the Sun Cult, the Jahirian cults, emerged after the founding of the Phoenix Empire, when many Bulwari adopted the belief that Jahir was Surreal Reborn. This belief was adopted and spread primarily by the clergy of this, who were the first temples to proclaim Jahir as Surreal Reborn. These new cults are continuations of the local sects, and with the exemption of the belief in Jahir's divinity, they are indistinguishable from the local sects they originated from. So they believe he is a god. He also does start off with a unique spear, a legendary spear. It is the Piercer of Shadows. It's his legendary precursor spear made entirely of precursor steel. The spearhead gleams like the sunlight, and I believe he gave a fragment of this to this person when he died, which is really cool. He has two sons right now. He has Jeriel and he has Elisar. And if I'm not mistaken, his daughter that I mentioned earlier that was assassinated ends up founding like the second Phoenix Empire, because he died, he gets assassinated, and then one of his sons only rules for like 10 years and he also gets assassinated. And then there's like a second iteration of the Phoenix Empire. So that's kind of sucks, but this is an insanely cool character. The dude's basically just like a walking Giga Chad. That's like literally his whole lore, is that he's just great at everything and he's very in your face about it. He's kind of like, if you've ever played Warhammer, I think it's Imril. I think that might be his name. Or no, it's Imric. If Imric from Warhammer, if you've ever played Warhammer Total War, he's like that. Like, he walks the walk because he can. He does, and he did participate in the War of the Sorcerer King, so he was there too. He did not like sit on the sideline and just do his own thing, and you can kind of just do whatever you want with this guy. He's got territory everywhere. He's kind of just really strong, so it's not going to be as much of a challenge, but it's still really sick. And there's very little about them spears, but elves, like, obviously this is a beta. I want to stress that the map is not very big. This is a beta mod, but there's so much lore in here that you can sort of fill in the blanks in your brain with your own fun. And there are unique buildings and stuff too. Like, the mod is not completely barren. I've played much less completed mods. Like, we have stuff like the South Citadel, the White Walls of Casanor, which you can even see the stuff on the map, which is what I used for my video when I made it, if you guys recall. So there are things to look at. It's just, you know, you have to sometimes like kind of create your own fun with this. The narrative is not as fulfilled as it could be or as it will be. Like, there's going to be emergent storylines and stuff that's going to come out later on. But I just wanted to make a video now a year after the fact, because it already does look different. This is not the same looking map that I played with or that I made that video with a year ago. And I just wanted to bring attention to that and hopefully get you guys interested in trying it out. But that is going to be it for me. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Starts I Recommend in Anbennar, and as always, I will happily see you in the next one.